I'm the founder and CEO of Domichain. I know a lot of people here are trying to find some very interesting project here. That's why you're coming here. So hopefully what I'm having here is something that's really interesting to you, if not the most interesting project of this conference. So at Domichain, so we're building a super fast layer 1 blockchain with some AI technology with also hybrid validation model and with combined also with satellite technology. So everyone is familiar with this diagram. So in the blockchain system, one of the most challenging problems is the trilemma, the famous trilemma, which is the scalability, security, decentralization cannot be achieved at the same time. So a lot of these blockchain has to sacrifice one to achieve the other two. So I think if have been with blockchain for a while, you're probably familiar with this problem. And with Web 3.0, and which requires very fast blockchain, like for games and some other applications. So really the scalability, security, and decentralization, none of them can be sacrificed. So at Domichain, we are achieving all three of them, namely like scalability, security, and decentralization at the same time through some very interesting combination of technology. So we were able to achieve high throughput of 100,000 transactions per second on the blockchain and the highest degrees of decentralization as well. And also, very interestingly, I want to mention we're going to be probably one of the first blockchain that's going to be built with satellite technology. So when we talk about hybrid validation model, which means, in a lot of these blockchain, like all your nodes are very similar. So at Domichain, we actually have something called a core node and also a surveillance node. So in core node, we're talking about the nodes that are being hosted in the data center that's going to be producing blocks and also making validation for blocks. And then the surveillance nodes are actually those nodes not necessarily in the data center, but are used to kind of surveillance the security of the whole blockchain network. So this is one of those things that hasn't been done before. So we are kind of like leading the way in using some of these nodes as a more like a decentralized firewall, as you will, in terms of blockchain. So interestingly, so these surveillance nodes is going to kind of watch over these core nodes and kind of make sure they're doing the right thing. So, and also we use some AI technology in these surveillance nodes. So in addition to watching these core nodes, it also analyze these network traffic. Like for example, if you have like a DDoS type of attack, then these surveillance nodes is going to pick up this problem at very early stage. So you won't have to stop the network. So the network won't go down for some couple of hours in order to fix the problem. So this is very interesting because it kind of enhances the security of the blockchain network. At the same time, it provides an interesting way for people to being part of the network. So something that's very interesting, I don't know how many of you are in technology here. So in Bitcoin, if you are familiar with Bitcoin, the order of transactions are actually being determined by the miners. So it's not really determined by the actual time it happens. So where's the PowerPoint goes? We lost the PowerPoint. So I'm going to continue to, so we're having a little bit of, okay, let's see here. So can we have the PowerPoint back? A little bit of technology glitch. Okay, so I can continue to talk over things. So essentially what I'm saying is in Domichain, we're doing something very interesting. It's like we are using a hash algorithm to determine the order of the transactions. So as these transactions come in, so we're going to do a hash, right? We're going to do a hash of each transaction. And then when the next transaction comes in, I'm going to take the previous hash and do another hash. So in this way, you actually determine the order of transactions without using consensus mechanism, which is very interesting because in Bitcoin, you spend a lot of time in trying to figure out the order. But in Domichain, and also this technology is used in Solana, it's called proof of history. So we are actually using the mass algorithm, hash algorithm to determine the order of transactions. So that saves a lot of time. Let's say, okay, yeah, we're here. So essentially, by doing this, we're saving time. We're making blockchain faster. So that's the name of the game. So we want to make things fast. Essentially, so we're going to have these, validators focus on like validating the validity of the transaction instead of like figuring out the order of the transactions. So that's the difference. So this is actually very interesting for decentralized exchange. So imagine like in a trading environment, right? So which order comes first is very important. So you don't want to have like some validator randomly select which one comes first, right? So, so another interesting thing at Domichain, what we're doing is we're combining the proof of history, which is the time hash algorithm, with something called a fast Byzantine agreement as a consensus algorithm, which is a type of proof of stake, right? So it's what it is actually using the self-run lottery mechanism to select the block leader, and at the same time, and also using this algorithm to select a random committee in order to do the block validation. So what's interesting thing here is by using a committee, now we're making blockchain more scalable because as more nodes is coming to join the network, right? So you don't have to slow down your consensus. So even though if you have, let's say, 100,000 nodes coming in, we're still using a committee to figure out the transactions to do the consensus. So this is also very important. So compare with PDFT, the practical Byzantine fault tolerance consensus, which is going to go down like in speed as more nodes join the network. Right? So one of the other interesting things is we achieved immediate finality, about 3.5 seconds. And the other thing about this algorithm is very secure because the chance of some kind of attack is 1 to the power of negative 18th power. So this is kind of like once since the creation of the universe. It's very, very secure. So again, this is more scalable compared to PDFT, and also has, we're using enhanced security by choosing a random block leader. So moving on. All right, so there's a little bit of a graphics problem during the conversion. So we are actually, at Domichain, we're using WASM as a VM. So we build our own VM using the WASM standard. So what's interesting is that WASM is an industry standard that's cross-platform. But it's the performance-wise, it's very close to native code, right? It also supports multiple language. And at the same time, we're also building like a pre-compiler that can convert these, make these EVM Solidity code to be compatible. Another very exciting thing we're doing at Domichain is we're building these decentralized storage mechanism using these surveillance nodes. Like in this diagram, essentially, we have, let's say, 100,000, of these or 10,000 of these surveillance nodes. We're going to use them to build this decentralized storage. And this storage can be used to store like NFT files. Let's say you have a movie or some kind of large file. In today's NFT, it's going to be very hard to store them. But because we have these integrated decentralized storage, we can actually store these things on chain. And also we can store like historic chain data on chain. Now come to the satellite. So what do we use satellite for? Because if you are in technology, right? If you talk about what is a blockchain network, essentially blockchain is replicated. So each node needs to replicate data to another node. So it is very important to have fast replication of data. So is literally using the satellite to do very fast data replication across all the nodes. So we're partnering with a satellite technology firm in Washington, D.C. They've been doing this satellite technology for the last 30 years. So they have a very unique technology that can have 20 satellites. They only need 20 satellites to create this global network of broadband access. And so this global network has fast connection and also low latency. So low latency is the key here because when you replicate these data, you don't want to have large delay. So essentially, what we're doing is using this satellite network to do data replication with a latency of about 120 milliseconds. So that's very exciting because if you're in a ground network, right? So let's say you want to replicate data from Beijing to New York. You're probably going to go through 30 network hubs. And each one of them is probably going to have a 120 millisecond delay. And if you add that up, you're talking about seconds of delay. So that's why, with a lot of these traditional distributed systems, it is very hard to replicate these data fast. So by using these, satellite technology, we're literally only have one hub. Data go up and down, so we're done, right? So we have fast connection, low latency, and the other interesting thing by using the satellite technology is we're achieving some very high degree of decentralization because now your network node, your core node does not have to be in the data center. It can be like some rural area. So that can be covered with this access technology. And the other interesting thing is these, satellite also have like special timestamp and also positioning. Like we're talking about geo positioning algorithm, that we're using the timestamp and the positioning, both of them, to achieve another level of security in the blockchain. So why do we build these fast blockchain, right? All right, so blockchain can be used in many different areas. So blockchain is a blockchain, can be used anywhere. Essentially, it can be used for SocialFi, payment processing, global remittance, DAX, obviously, asset digitalization, supply chain management. So we're running a little bit out of time, so I'm going to go a little bit fast. So Domichain is registered in the United States, and it's registered with SEC, which is the Security Exchange Commission. So our team, myself, Jacky, I'm founder CEO. I have 23 years of experience. in doing distributed systems. Worked for many firms, and I'm very excited about the technology. And I have a PhD from Dartmouth College, a master's degree from Johns Hopkins, and bachelor degree from Tsinghua University. And some of my teammates, so I got Stanislav and Rudy was our chief AI engineer. And John is our, chief satellite officer, which has a lot of experience. I'm not going to go through these examples. And Dr. Cyrus, our chief PNT officer, is a PhD as well. We have a lot of PhD in our team. Our advisors, Daniel, Lance, and Shelley. So our partners, including Amazon, that help us to develop and test our blockchain and migrate to the AWS network. And our second partner is obviously our virtual geo satellite technology. And another partner is Logic Networks, help us to do testing in the cloud. And my contact information. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.